Hey, very good day to every one of you. This is Rita Tsui, founder of AsiaHRM and Coaching Engage Plus. AsiaHRM is an international organization for human resources professionals to stay ahead of the curve, keep abreast of the latest HR information and best practices. So we do have networking platform on social media, such as Facebook, LinkedIn, and also WhatsApp. Apart from that, we also have webinars, regular webinars on different kind of HR topics. And apart from that, we also have HR-related activities. As far as Coaching Engage Plus is concerned, basically is an online marketplace connecting qualified coaches with their potential clients, such as HR practitioners. And for me, I'm an HR practitioner at the same time a coach. So I know the power of coaching. I also understand that for employees, nowadays they have shifted their mindset to somehow they really want, especially for those Gen Z, right? They want to be coached. They want to give them the autonomy to have a say to get the things done by themselves. That's why we have seen the importance of having a coaching culture of establishing this kind of coaching culture in organization. And today we are so glad that we have an expert in this area, my good friend Julius Ordoñez, right? He is the founding president of ICF Philippines. At the same time, he's the founder of Benchmark Consulting. He's based in the US, originated from the Philippines. And he's going to present uh, on this topic for around 30 to 40 minutes, followed by the Q&A. So just feel free to put your question in the chat. So without further ado, I would love to pass the control to Julius. Thank you, Julius.
Thank you so much, Rita. Thank you for that lovely introduction. So, good morning, everyone, or maybe good evening to some of you. So, I'm very excited and honored to be here with you today. I can see that there's only a few of us here, so it's going to be an intimate group. So, I request everyone to please turn on your camera. There you go. Yeah, I would love our session to be as engaging and interactive as possible, since this is an intimate group, right? Okay, so my first question to you, because I would like to get a sense of your profile here. So, who are coaching practitioners? Meaning you are coaches already. You have your coaching practice. Okay. Who
I
are
have a practice.
internal?
I have a
Yes.
practice, but I don't have a company. I do it for my
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
organization. Yeah, in the past. Yeah.
I see. So either you are a freelance coaching practitioner, or maybe you have a company, or maybe you belong or associated,
Yeah.
affiliated
Correct.
with a
Correct.
certain coaching company. Doesn't matter. Okay. Who is an internal coach here? Meaning you are an employee of a company, but you are a professional coach and you're doing coaching in your organization. Anyone? Perfect. And who is an HR practitioner, meaning you are a coaching champion, you are a coaching ambassador in your organization, you are a user of coaching. Okay, very good. So this is going to be an exciting session because we have a very good mix here. All right. So let me share with you my slide here. Hold on. So we'll be talking about building a coaching culture. And I know that this is a broad topic. So we will just be focusing on what are the critical elements that must be present in a coaching culture, meaning the critical success factors, some things that you need to consider for you to build a coaching culture. And I'm very sure you have different reasons for attending this session. And I would like to know what's your specific objective. So I would like you to go to the chat and write down what is that one big burning question that you would like to be answered by this question. What is that one big burning question that you would like to be answered by this session? Meaning, you will get some clarity on, and maybe when that question is answered, then it will make a big impact on your coaching practice. Either you are a external coaching practitioner or internal coach, or maybe you are an HR head, or a coaching sponsor. So let me see your questions here. Where and how to start? Oh, yes. That's a very good question. I love that. How can organizations have a better adoption, acceptance of a coaching culture? Oh, yes, we'll be talking about that as well. Buy-in as well as to be more persuasive. So how to get the buy-in and commitment of the different stakeholders, okay, to fully own the coaching initiative. Very good question. How do we coach senior leaders? Um, we may not be able to touch on this, but yeah, we'll be talking about coaching people in an organization as part of the process in building a coaching culture. How to get everyone aligned? Oh, yes, having everyone on the same page as far as the coaching objective is concerned. I am interested to find out more about best practices and challenges in supporting an organization to become more of a coaching organization. I love that. How to convince a CEO of a company that they need to develop a coaching culture. I love this. How to sustain a coaching culture. Looks like we need more than an hour here. Rita. I
True,
I
true,
am
true.
an HR consultant trying to introduce coaching for performance in an organization. And Muhammad, what is then your question? And from Kenny, how to sustain coaching culture? Oh yeah, sustainability is very important. Very good. I love your questions, guys. And I hope that you will get the answers that you're looking for, okay, at the end of our session today. Now, my first question to you is this. Why do you think organizations build a coaching culture? What could be their reason or objective for building a coaching culture? Why do they embark on this coaching initiative? Why not a mentoring culture? Why not a consulting culture? Why not a training culture? Why coaching specifically? Why do you think? Can you please go to the chat? And let's see your answers here. Okay, to promote employee empowerment from Chris. Let's see the answers, some of the answers. For sustainability, okay. So it could be sustaining work performance or maybe business growth. To develop and grow high performers, oh yes. So specifically high potential individuals. To spark innovation, oh yes. Frameworks to support learning. They acknowledge that their people have inner potential that need to be unleashed. So that people can maximize their fullest potential, to create a more psychologically safe space for sharing instead of guiding and instructing and advising. I love that. Improve 360 communication. It's not a one-way communication, okay, for problem solving, build trust, and accountability. I love your answers. All of these are actually correct. But if you take a look at how can coaching lead to, for example, talent retention, or maybe developing and growing high performers, et cetera, et cetera. So let's revisit what coaching is. And I know that most of you are coaches here already, and you know what coaching is, but just the same, let's have a shared understanding of coaching. Also, because we have HR practitioners in this group, okay? So what is coaching? So let's just revisit that. So we all know that coaching is not advising, right? It's not telling, it's not teaching, it's not imparting. We all know that. It's actually more about making the person think. It's facilitating their thought process so that they can arrive at their own conclusions, their answers, their realizations, their solutions. So it's a self-discovery process. So if they are actually discovering the solutions and the answers themselves, then they become independent thinkers. And so if the employees become independent thinkers, can you imagine what will happen in the organization?
Mm.
Right? If employees become independent thinkers, what do you think? What's the scenario? How does that look like?
Everybody will do their own thing.
Oh yes, everybody can do their own thing. They can solve problems on their own. They don't have to wait for their manager to tell them what to do, right? So in other words, decision making probably is faster, a lot faster. Problem solving is also a lot faster. Okay? And that can impact overall performance. And because they're discovering things on their own, then it also makes individuals self-directed learners. And if people are self-directed learners in the whole organization, how does that look like, guys? What do you think? Anyone?
I think it's good to a point now, because why, you cannot leave it entirely for them all the time. I think you need some intervention sometimes. Yeah,
And the intervention is coaching so that they become self-directed learners, right?
Yeah.
So through coaching, they become self-directed learners. And so if employees are taking charge of their own growth and development, how does that look like now?
It's better.
It's better because now you can see talents that are actually growing personally and professionally, okay? They will take charge of their own development, and therefore it will lead to skills enhancement or maybe building of new skills, competencies, etc. Okay?
Right.
And it also makes people more accountable. Okay? So since they become independent thinkers and they find the solutions themselves, and therefore that makes them more accountable because anything that comes from them, the tendency is for them to own that. Okay? So the solution that came from them, there's more commitment when they actually implement that solution because it came from them. And therefore, coaching can make people more accountable of their own decision, accountable for their own development, accountable for their own well-being. And therefore, this can even lead to better job satisfaction or total well-being of employees because now people are taking charge of their own selves. Okay? And coaching, as we know, is a collaborative partnership. So when leaders are trained how to coach, and now they coach their subordinates, they coach their teams, they change their leadership style to being more collaborative, right? It's no longer the autocratic style of leadership. It's no longer, I will tell you, or it's my way or the highway, but they're going to engage now their people in a conversation because it's going to be a collaborative partnership. So this can lead to employee engagement. So because of this, coaching is now being used by organizations as a strategy, okay, for talent development, for leadership development in general, for employee well-being, to promote employee well-being, and as a strategy for employee engagement and commitment, for performance improvement, and of course, all of this, it will lead to the bottom line, which is business growth. So this is why organizations are actually embarking on a coaching initiative. They're building a coaching culture because it can lead to these results. And if you look at the stories of the different companies that actually won the ICF Impact Awards or the PRISM Award, in the last how many years. You can see here the different companies. It's the same thing. If you read their stories, look at their journey, they're saying the same thing, that actually the coaching culture that they have built for their organization have promoted talent development, employee well-being, engagement, performance, and again, bottom line, business growth. So knowing how coaching can actually lead to these results. So the question is, what is a coaching culture, right? So let us define first what a culture is. What is culture in the first place? Can you please go to the chat and write down maybe a few words to define what culture is based on your own understanding or based on your experience? What is culture? Okay, common values, shared values, right? What else?
The value that you want to be
Or,
held in the company.
okay, yes. Thoughts, common beliefs, and shared values, norms of behavior and values in an organization, a practice, a habit that is followed by everyone in the organization, the values and unspoken ways of doing things in an organization, common understanding about group things and behaves. Group thinks and behaves, I think, is what you mean, Chris. Right? So yes, all of these are actually correct. And if we put them all together, a culture is actually a way of thinking, behaving, or working that exists in a place or organization. So you're right. I mean, if you take a look at the way they're behaving and thinking, there's a shared way of thinking. There's a shared way of behaviors. There's a shared way of working. There are ways of working. So if we actually apply this now on the coaching concept, so way of thinking. So we're looking at a coaching mindset. So what is a coaching mindset, right? If an organization embodies a coaching mindset and they share a ways of thinking, which is actually based on the coaching principle. So what is that? What does that look like actually? So let's take a look at them one by one, okay? So first is people believe that actually employees are capable in the organization. That people have the thinking capability, that people have strengths, that people are capable of changing, that people are capable of learning. So they hold each other capable. So that is a coaching mindset in an organization. So without this mindset, coaching will never work. Next, that change is possible. So even if, probably there is an employee, who is already a retirable, meaning he has been there for the longest time in the company, quite old, you still believe that that person can still change because change is possible. Okay, so that's another coaching mindset. Another one is there are options and possibilities. It's not limited, it's limitless. So that's why in a coaching conversation, you help the person actually expand his horizon, correct? Make him see the different possibilities. Make him see the panoramic view, because people tend to have this myopic view. So in other words, an organization that embraces a coaching mindset believes that there are options and possibilities. And that everyone has a choice. Okay? And that people commit to actions they create themselves. So there's this belief that when solutions and answers actually came from the individuals, then they actually commit to this and they own it. Okay? And there's also belief that authentic connection, openness, and trust actually impact real positive change. That there's transformation if there's genuine connection among people in the organization, if there's psychological safety, if there's openness, there's deep level of trust in the organization, then that can actually help the organization transform. And of course, lastly, coaching mindset also means that there's belief that learning never ends. Okay? So in other words, when you talk about the coaching culture, these are the mindsets that the people should embody. These are the beliefs that the people embrace. Without any of this, then coaching will never flourish in an organization. It will never be a culture. All right? Now, let's take a look at the ways of doing or ways of behaving. How does that look like in an organization with a coaching culture? What do you think? What do you think? This time I would like to hear some voices. Not through the chat this time. Anyone who would like to say something or share his thoughts about this? What do you see in an organization with a coaching culture? What are their ways of behaving and doing? Yes, Chris, you unmuted yourself.
Yes.
You would like to say something.
Yes, for me, it's
Make me proud.
the very basic behavior is really trust, both on the part
All right.
of the people managing the organization and also on the part of the employees.
Right. So people are trusting each other, especially the leaders, they're trusting their people. Okay. Because again, they hold them capable. And at the same time, because of the trust, then people seek to help and be helped. If you see that in an organization, like people are being vulnerable, admitting that they need help, then there is a coaching indicator, okay, of a coaching culture. Next, people ask and listen, especially the leaders. They actually adopt coaching as a communication style. So instead of them telling their people what to do, they ask questions, okay? They listen. So they become coach-like in their leadership approach, even in the way they're communicating with their peers, and sometimes even upward communication or even diagonal communication. There is asking and listening, okay? Another one, people think and act on their own. So in other words, they are now independently thinking and behaving and acting. So there's a coaching culture when people are acting and thinking on their own. Gives constructive feedback. I saw that. Very good. That's also one indicator. So coming from the intention to help. People seek to help. So that falls under number one. So people take charge and are self-directed. So you can see that people are taking charge of their own development. They're already self-directed in their own learning and growth. And as you said, Chris, people trust and empower each other. Okay? So when you see all these elements, then we can say that there is a coaching culture. Now, how do we get there? Because this is an ideal scenario, right? That is a clear picture of a coaching culture. How do we get there? There are different initiatives or different types or modalities of coaching. Okay. And when you actually implement all of this, then it will lead to a situation when people at all levels in that organization already exhibit coaching principles in their way of being and doing. So this is what a coaching culture is. Now, what are these modalities? Coaching as a leadership style, meaning leaders, managers are being trained on coaching and they're actually coaching their people. Okay, so that's why it is a leadership style. Next, coaching is being received by people, and this is actually being done by external professional coaches, especially for high potential individuals, high potential leaders. So companies usually hire external professional coaches to coach them.
Yes, that's right.
Now, there are also companies who build an internal pool of internal professional
Right.
coaches,
Yeah.
meaning a select few, for example, 10 people, 20 people, 30 people, who were carefully chosen to actually receive an ICF accredited coach training. So they become certified as coaches. And their role is to provide coaching for the employees. And another modality is peer coaching. So it's not just vertical, but horizontal type of coaching, wherein employees, the leaders are actually coaching each other. So that's peer coaching. There's also group coaching. So group coaching is like coaching an individual in a group setting, okay? But the members of that group may not be interfacing in terms of their functions, but they're talking about a common theme that they would like to be helped on. Okay, so for example, they're talking about leadership in general, or maybe about wellness, or maybe about um, communication. Okay, and the last one is team coaching. Now, what is the difference between group and team coaching? Team coaching is for a group of people whose functions are interfacing. In other words, they're working interdependently. And so you're coaching the team so that they become more cohesive, they become more high performing, and you are coaching the dynamics of the team for them to become better in their collaboration, in their communication, etc., etc.
I
Okay,
personally think that
so
for staff who are very senior in the organization, it may be better to have an external coach
oh yes,
because
so we'll
then,
be talking about the pros and cons of that,
right,
Yo. So
right,
thank you for that input.
yeah.
Yeah. Have you witnessed successful cases of peer coaching within organizations? Oh, yes, Philbert. We have worked with organizations in the last 20 years, and there are companies who are actually doing this as a common practice. It's actually it's one of the best practices of companies that have built a coaching culture. Okay, so let's continue. So what are now the critical success factors in building a coaching culture? Okay, knowing that there are different modalities that you can actually employ in an organization. So, what can help you become successful? Okay, what are these key ingredients? So, this is actually a product of research, specifically in Germany and in the US, and also a product of my own personal experience working with different companies already, or helping companies build a coaching culture in the last 20 years. So let's take a look at them one by one. So the first one is this: coaching definition and coaching context. So what does this mean? So let's take a look at common definition. So the first question is, how does the organization define coaching? Is there a shared understanding of coaching? Is it actually based on ICF definition? Or are the people confused? Like sometimes they see coaching as mentoring, or sometimes they see mentoring as coaching,
That's
and
right.
therefore they have different perspectives. So there has to be a common understanding. There has to be a shared vocabulary. Okay. So that means the coaching literacy is not zero. Okay. So that is a critical success factor, because the
Yes.
way they define coaching will now determine how they're going to execute coaching eventually. So if they see coaching as telling, then they will tell, each other what to do. If they see coaching as teaching, then they will teach people, right? So that's the first ingredient. People should have a clear and full understanding that coaching is not teaching, is not imparting, etc. And it should be based on ICF definition. Why ICF? Because this is globally,
Accepted, yeah. Accepted.
recognized.
Yeah.
Right. It's the authority in the field of coaching. All right. Next, coaching context. What does this mean? What is the positioning of coaching? When you introduce coaching to the organization, what are you trying to achieve? What are you addressing? Are you addressing business challenges? Are you positioning coaching as an enabler for achieving your business objectives? Is it positioned to promote well-being, talent development, engagement, and retention? Is it positioned to improve individual and team performance? Or is it all of the above? Or is it positioned to actually enable people to be better at managing change? Because organizations are constantly changing, given all these transformation efforts happening. So how clear is that for the organization? What's the objective for building a coaching culture? Is this tied to the overall vision and mission of the organization? Is this tied to the overall business objectives? So this should be very clear. Okay, so that's the first ingredient. Without this, what do you think will happen?
It was not succeed.
It will not succeed.
Yeah,
There will be no culture that will be
that's right.
formed, okay? Because people will be having different ways of doing things, but they call it coaching. Next, pervasiveness and high proficiency. What is pervasive? There's widespread use of coaching. Coaching is embedded in the organization, and the use of coaching is pervasive. That's the meaning of this. If the use of coaching is only between the leader or the manager and his subordinate, then probably that's not yet called a coaching culture. Okay? Because when coaching is already pervasive in the organization, it's being utilized at different levels of the organization. And the use of the different coaching types and modalities, it is also pervasive. So the more coaching types utilized, the better. So again, coaching as a leadership style, meaning the leaders are being trained. And then you have an internal pool of professional coaches, and you're hiring external professional coaches. There's peer coaching happening. There's team coaching happening. There's group coaching happening. That's how pervasive it is. Before you can even call an organization having a coaching culture. Okay. So what is high proficiency? Before that, pervasiveness also means that employees have equal access to coaching. So meaning coaching is provided as an opportunity, okay, for everyone in the organization. Either they receive it from their leader, from the external coach, from the internal coach. They have this equal opportunity, okay, to be coached. Next, high proficiency. The leaders or managers must be proficient in coaching. And we all know that 2 days of training is not enough. The managers will learn the basic skills, maybe asking questions, listening, etc. But that is not enough because the paradigm shifting alone is already difficult for them because their default style is what? What is the default style of leaders or managers? It's about telling.
Telling.
Right. It's telling because leaders, managers are programmed to be problem solvers. They provide solutions. Okay. That is the training of managers. So meaning the paradigm shifting alone is already challenging for them. Okay, so 2 days of training is not enough. So in other words, there has to be a continuing process of building the skill, the coaching skills of managers, a continuing development for them. Okay, next, the external internal coaches must be certified. Okay, so at the minimum, they should have undergone the 60 hours of training by the ICF. Okay, so the level 1 training at the minimum. They should have that certification. So when you look for an external certified coach, look for that certificate that they in fact completed at least level 1 of training. Now, there are companies who have a higher standard, like they look for the ICF credentialed coaches, like the ACCs and the PCCs and the MCCs. Okay, so that's the second ingredient or critical success factor. Next, involvement of the top. Any initiative, any program for that matter in an organization, whether that's transformation, digitalization, or anything, it has to be supported by the top. Okay?
Yes.
In building a coaching culture, what I mean by involvement of the top is this. Senior officers model coaching. In other words, they must be trained on how to coach. Can you imagine if you're actually teaching the middle managers on how to coach, but the leadership style at the top is very autocratic? Can you imagine that? So there's a disconnect, right? There's misalignment. So there has to be an alignment in terms of the leadership style. So in other words, they should also be coaching. So they should model coaching. Next, there should be public endorsements from the top. In other words, it becomes their buzzword, okay? So whenever there are programs, whenever there are some initiatives, so they talk about coaching. So these are public endorsements. Filbert, yes,
Yeah,
you're
just a
raising your
quick
hand.
question on this topic. You know how a
Sure.
lot organizations, the CEO or the top management changes every 4 to 5 years. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, usually when a new senior level executive comes in, they usually try to adopt their own practices.
Mhm.
So how have you seen that play out in terms of rotation of senior management and affecting the existing culture in the organization if it's established like a
Yeah,
coaching culture?
yeah, that's really a challenge. And I've seen some of my clients experience that transition. Like there was this one client for 5 years, they've been already using coaching as a leadership style in the organization. And then here comes now the new CEO.
Right.
Okay. And the style of the CEO is quite different, very task focused, numbers driven, etc. And so it was so difficult for HR, the CHRO, you know,
Yeah.
to actually get the buy-in of that CEO to take a look at the culture that is already um, existing in the organization and it's actually producing results. So what this CHRO did was to present the case, like the results that they've been enjoying as a result of the coaching culture, okay? How it has impacted employee engagement, how it has impacted customer satisfaction, because that's one of their metrics, customer satisfaction, and how actually impacted the business results. And so it was quite a journey for them. And so the compromise was for us, I mean, my company, to do an introductory course on coaching. So half day introduction about coaching. And so in that session, we found out that this CEO does not really know what coaching is. For him, coaching is actually about mentoring. But when he realizes what coaching is and the real impact of coaching, so that's when he became curious, more curious about, so what is this really? I would like to learn this, how to do it. And so that was the starting point, Philbert.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
So the shift can actually happen, you know. But I've seen also organizations that they have forgotten altogether, as in completely what they have
Yeah.
started because of that new leadership, who has
So
a
it also
different style.
it also comes down to business performance, right? Because at the end of the day, you need to
Exactly.
ensure the return on investment, and also, you know, where the new CEO or senior management brought in was because the company was struggling, but it was a coaching culture,
Mhm.
right? But it was financially struggling. And so
Right.
therefore, unfortunately, you know, certain things have to forego to ensure
Mm.
sustainability of the organization. So
Right. Exactly. So the top management has to see the business case for
yeah,
coaching. Okay. So that's the most important thing. So
Uh,
ROI is something that they look for, or ROE, at
yeah.
least, at the very least, ROE, return on expectation. Right. Okay. Public endorsements.
Julius,
Let's go back.
sorry,
Oh, yes.
sorry, Julius. Just a slight variation to Philbert's question. What if you're, and this was my objective when you asked, why am I here? If there's sort of a denial
Mm,
syndrome from, let's say, the C-suite, they believe that they don't need coaching because they
you
think
don't
they're,
need. Yeah.
so good. I mean, how do you
Yeah.
penetrate
Yeah.
that when you see it from outside?
Yeah. And they may be right in saying that, hey, we don't need this because anyway, we're doing well. Yeah.
No, they're not. In
So,
fact, they're not doing
yeah.
well.
So you have to, oh, they're not doing well. Okay.
Yes.
And they're not doing well. So, do you have like proof or evidence that they're not doing well? That's the first
Mhm,
thing that you
mhm,
need to show. And then also, you need to show proof and evidence that in fact coaching can help them.
mhm,
Okay. So you need to present to them some success stories of coaching,
mhm,
actual success stories of companies, okay, that
mhm,
made some turnaround in their business because of coaching,
mhm.
because
Okay.
that's what they would like to see. Like, is this hypothetical?
Mhm,
Or is it an actual reality? Is it an actual experience of companies?
mhm.
Or it's purely theoretical? So you need to show that. Okay.
Just sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt, Julius. Just on that point from Jing. Um,
Yeah.
have you seen companies from your experience where they've focused on a smaller team, whether it be a
Hmm.
department or a team, to demonstrate whether coaching can help them, you know, whether it be the morale or whether their performance, and then slowly from that you propagate that into the
Oh, very good
organization.
question. Yeah, I like that question. Um, Actually, most clients started with something small, okay, like a pilot group. Like, okay, let's start with the IT department, or let's start with the production department, something like that. And when they actually have some successful results, then they scale it, you know, they expand the program. So then we go for another department. So usually that's the starting point for most companies. Okay. Already. So let's continue with this. So there's also active participation in the different phases of the program. So in other words, you get their participation. It could be as simple as they do the opening remarks in a 2-day coach training, right? Or maybe they will be the one to send the memo to everyone, that communication piece to everyone about what is this about, why they are embarking on this, etc. Or maybe you get their feedback in terms of what results, changes that they are seeing as a result of the program. So in other words, they are involved in the entire implementation of the program. Okay. Next, communication strategy. So what's your strategy in communicating this initiative to all employees? Because again, any initiative for that matter, it has to be understood. It has to be clear to everyone because that's your way of getting their ownership. That's your way of getting their buy-in. So everybody must know what the organization is trying to achieve And that has to be very transparent to everyone. Okay? There should be awareness and full understanding of the concept by everyone. This concept of coaching, this concept of coaching culture, there has to be full understanding of that. And why is that? Because transparency builds trust. It builds credibility of the program. And that is why you need to plan carefully your communication strategy. How are you going to communicate this program to the employees? And you anticipate possible resistance. What would be possible reactions, especially from doubters, especially from skeptics? So that's part of your planning. All right? I may have to fast track this now because we're running out of time. So next, promoting coaching as a growth-oriented intervention. Do not position coaching as a corrective intervention because you will receive resistance from people. Okay? So coaching is not something that will fix them, right? But position it as a developmental tool, something that will help them grow, something that will actually lead them to self-actualization, something that will actually make them realize their fullest potential. Introduce coaching as a collaborative and co-active partnership, okay? Because oftentimes people want to be heard, what they want to be felt, they want to be seen, they want to be valued. And so if you position coaching as meeting that need, then they will buy into it. And promote the coach as a partner, not a fixer, okay? Nor a miracle worker. This is very important. Like, coaching is not the end all and the be all, okay? Don't overpromise. So that's the fifth one. And the next one is commitment of everyone involved. Without this, coaching will never prosper, okay, in the organization. So there should be full ownership of the coaching program by the employees or the coachees, by the coach, whoever is coaching, by the leader or immediate supervisor, by the team, by the management, HR, or the sponsor, and other stakeholders, okay? So there should be buy-in. And your communication strategy will help generate that buy-in that you're looking for. Next, effective evaluation. Is there ROI? Is there ROE? So what to evaluate, that should be very clear. And why evaluate it, that should also be very clear. And when to evaluate. Do we evaluate at the end of the program? Do we evaluate at the middle of the program? Or is it a periodic thing? Like every step of the way, you need to evaluate how the program is going so that you can make some adjustments? And then how do you evaluate? Do you conduct a survey? Is there an FGD? Will there be live interviews, etc., etc.? Okay. Now, what do you normally evaluate in coaching? So there's qualitative and quantitative, right? So take a look at the level of acquisition of skills, behaviors, and attitudes. Is there change in the behavior? Change in leadership style. Did the leaders change, okay, and transform to becoming collaborative leaders and more transformational leaders? Did they veer away from being transactional in their approach? Personal growth, level of satisfaction in the workplace, and overall well-being. Okay. Change in the confidence level of people, change in the level of motivation and engagement at work, change in the level of creativity and innovation. Are people challenging the status quo? Are they actually introducing new systems? Are they re-engineering their ways of doing things? Change in interpersonal relationships, change in team collaboration. Is there a better interpersonal relationship now and it's leading to better teamwork and collaboration? And is there change in the overall climate in the organization? and change in customer satisfaction, and this is more quantitative now, and change in productivity, sales, savings. This is the bottom line, right? So it should be clear from the very start what you want to measure, what you want to evaluate as a result of the coaching culture. And lastly, there has to be careful planning and implementation. Okay. Just like any project for that matter, just like any program, you need to carefully plan for it. So do not train the leaders right away on coaching and you don't know what is the next step, right? Because that oftentimes happens in organizations. This is the most common scenario. They train the leaders right away on coaching, but they don't know how to proceed. So what's next? So it's becoming piecemeal, right, in their approach. So there has to be a roadmap. So you need to create a roadmap that is carefully planned, and then you're going to implement that roadmap, and then you will do the adjustments, along the way. So the approach in building a coaching culture varies from one company to another, but what I've seen is that the common denominator is careful planning. So what do they normally plan? What are the common elements in the plan? So they look at the big picture, what is the business requirements or the needs of the organization, and this is where the objective of coaching comes in, the coaching context, and then of course the coaching program. What are the different types of coaching that should be implemented? How does the coaching program structure look like? What's the implementation strategy? How do we manage the changes when there is a pushback or resistance from people? How do we address that? What are the resources needed? And then, of course, the roles of each one, of each stakeholder, and looking at also the benefits, and then the communication plan, and then the monitoring and evaluation system, and then talking about sustainability. So what are the things or what are the activities that you will do to sustain the gains of this program that you've implemented in building a coaching culture? And then, of course, you create champions as you do this. All right. So let me stop here. And you may have some questions. We
Julius,
have
there are some
7 minutes.
questions.
Yeah.
There are some questions in the chat box.
Okay.
For me, I would love you to share a bit more on this senior officers model coaching. And there are two more from the others, two more questions from the others.
Okay, hold on. Sorry, I'm looking at the chat now.
Mhm.
What is that question again? Sorry.
Please share more on senior officers model coaching, right? In one of the slides, you
okay.
mentioned that, right?
Yeah, the senior officers, when they model coaching, in other words, they themselves are actually providing coaching to their people, at least to their immediate, to their direct reports. Okay, so in other words, in their leadership style, they're also employing coaching. So can you imagine if the top guy is also just, telling people what to do, and they are autocratic in their style, and then you're trying to build a coaching culture?
Yeah, he has to
How
be the
does it
model
look
as
like?
well.
Exactly. So they need to model coaching as well. Okay, next. What else is the next question? Have you witnessed successful cases of peer coach? Yeah, I've answered that question already.
I think there are two more. Coaching culture is not every company. Some will never get there due to existing culture. I think this is not a question, maybe this is a comment.
It's a comment, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably yes. It depends on where the company is, because I've also worked with a company that's very top-down approach. There's what's this? Like, people are blind followers, like they just follow what the boss says, right? And there's a withholding culture in the organization. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really difficult to introduce coaching in that company, and probably it will take a while for them to realize that. But I remember my experience in Singapore when I started doing coaching in Singapore, and that's way back 2008. And they were telling me, you know what, in Singapore, yeah, it's very hierarchical. They were telling me from the prime minister, we just follow. So coaching does not have a place in our culture. They were telling me that. But guess what? You know, coaching is now how do I call that? Very developed, you know, in Singapore. Like if there's one country with the most number of coaches in Asia,
Singapore.
that
Yeah,
would be Singapore.
True, true.
Yeah, but they were telling me in the past, oh, coaching does not have a place in our culture. But look at them now, right?
Yes. And then another question, I think it's a question from Philbert, right? Is that right? What
Mhm.
role does
Company
company
and
and
benefits play in
benefits play?
establishing and bidding. Oh,
Compensation,
okay.
compensation.
I
Sorry,
love this.
compensation and benefits.
Yeah. You know, let me tell you a story. So I have a client. So their reward system is like this. They actually set up a coaching program wherein they trained 20 career coaches. So we trained their career coaches, and they actually underwent the level 1 training. And so they were assigned coachees. Now, as part of their reward in doing that is whenever the coachee achieves their objectives or goals at the end of the year, like after a year of coaching, they receive a monetary award, a reward, like as in fixed amount. And that's actually giving so much motivation to these coaches. Their commitment, as in, wow, is so deep because they would like to get that monetary reward. But that's just one company, Philbert. After 20 years, that's just one company that I witnessed that's giving monetary reward. Most companies are not giving anything. You know why? Because those coaches, for example, who are given coaching assignments, first, they would like, they love to do it because it's a bragging right for them. Because they will be seen as, hey, we're part of the creme de la creme, you know, we're part of the best because we are coaches, you know, that kind of stature. And then the second one is it's also a source of satisfaction for them. It's their way of actually paying it forward already. So because normally the coaches that are being chosen to become internal coaches are the leaders who've been with the company for the longest time. And so it's high time for them to actually give back. So it becomes a source of satisfaction for them. So they're not looking for any kind of, financial or material reward. Okay. So as HR manager, how do I proceed when top boss wants coaching culture, but wants his directives shall only work? Oh, what directive is that? So there has to be a one-on-one discussion with that boss, okay? And probably you need to explain to that boss, first and foremost, what coaching is really, and maybe you can present a roadmap, okay, that you plan to implement, and what the benefits would be after implementing this. And then maybe you can invite that boss to co-create that roadmap with you, okay? Co-creation with the boss is the key to get them on board. All right. All right. So it looks like, is it then really a coaching culture, or they do it for the money? Well, I can't, I can't,
Sorry,
I
that
can't
was
make
in
that
res-
judgment.
that was in
I can't make
response to
that judgment.
your
That
your
is
example
just
that you gave.
Yes,
it was a comment on that example where you said they were getting
right,
monetary
right.
rewards. That's, yeah.
Maybe yes, maybe not, right? But it's their way of actually rewarding these coaches for doing a job that is on top of their functional responsibility. Okay. All right. So it looks like my time is up already. And so that ends
Wow.
our session for today. And I really hope that you got something. And I would like to know what's your biggest takeaway from our session today. Can you please go to the chat and write down what's your biggest takeaway? What did you realize? What did you learn? Anything that you think you can use in your coaching practice as you help organizations build a coaching culture, or maybe you initiate the process of building a coaching culture in your own respective organizations. Yes, Philbert, it's not easy and it's a long journey.
Okay,
That's
good.
true. Yeah,
Yeah.
agree with that. Yeah, but it's also exciting and rewarding at the same time, Philbert. Amazing session. Thank you. Importance of the implementation plan, not easy. Yes, important to set the right tone and understanding at the beginning. That's correct. Involve everyone in the organization. Thanks for a good and informative session. Need to present the value proposition of having a coaching culture. Many thanks, Julius, for the insightful sharing. I'm inspired to approach my contacts to build a coaching culture. It's a combination of tactical and human touch. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So Julius,
All
before we
right.
end, shall we take a group picture? So everybody just
Sure.
turn on your camera. Okay. Some of you haven't turned on your camera yet. Okay. Let me do it. Can anyone? Great. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, give me 1 minute. Hang on, huh? Okay, so I think Julia has already got feedback from all of you, right? So although I have prepared a QR code, maybe just get feedback from you guys, especially on the topics that you would love to hear. Hang on. So this is the QR code. We would love to hear from you about your feedback. Okay, after that, we'll share it with Julius. And I'm sure that you can reach out to Julius on his LinkedIn, right?
Yes. So you can search me on LinkedIn, or maybe you can actually email me directly. So
Yeah.
let me type in my email ad here. Hold on. So feel free to get in touch with me should you need to consult me on anything
Yeah.
about coaching.
Yeah. Julia is an
Right.
expert.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
we also have this scan code. If you want to join, if you are a coach, a qualified coach, please join our platform called Coaching Engage Plus. Okay. So these are the codes that we would love you to scan so that you can, one is to give us feedback and the other is to join our platform. Okay, so if all okay, so thank you, Julia, for the wonderful and insightful session today from what is coaching, why coaching, and then what is culture, what is the coaching mindset, to some wonderful share of the key success factors, right? Critical factors. I really love the one that you mentioned that to create sort of the goal-oriented tool instead of coach being a partner, but not a fixer, not even a miracle worker. I really love that. Okay, thank you so much for that. So in our next session, I will keep you informed of our next webinar. Okay, so very good day for every one of you. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks, Julius, again. Just feel free to be in touch with him if you feel anything related to coaching. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for your
Bye-bye.
engagement and best
Thank you.
wishes. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.